concludes there. May we all strive to love like God. Well, that could be my whole sermon, right? Just that. Just repeating that line over and over and over. And I think we all would agree with that. I can't imagine there'd be anybody that would disagree, really. But yet, we know that it is difficult. If not, maybe perhaps some would argue impossible to love like God. So let's look into this. I don't know if you had a chance to look at your bulletin cover. We're back to using our pre-printed ones. During our series, we kind of stopped that for a bit. So again, just a reminder that the scriptures are most likely going to be on the back. I'm a lectionary preacher, so usually I follow that. But take a second, again, people at home, I'm sorry, I should have put a slide on here. But take a second and just look at this beautiful art that's on your covers if you do have a bulletin. I love the art. Again, it's a very different style, kind of Picasso-ish. But again, cool. Yeah, there we go. So I'll hold that up so our friends at home can see it a little bit better. So there is the Lord with the fish. Now, I guess if it were me, those of you who maybe know me, I would kind of be asking for a chocolate croissant, maybe. Scrambled eggs, okay, but fish, come on. But we know, obviously, that was something they would have been eating. Not to mention it was symbolic. So there is Jesus and making breakfast. And the one thing I dislike about this is I wish they would have frozen this moment 1 minute later when they sit down to actually eat breakfast with the Lord. Because that's the moment that I want us to be thinking about today. That moment when they recognized Jesus and then when they actually sat down with Jesus. That's the catch. That's the catch. And again, I guess I could skip even further back in my sermon. But that's the catch, is taking the time to recognize that God is always there with us, taking the time, making it a priority to spend that time with Jesus for lots of different reasons, and that's what we're going to talk about also. Think about this whole dialogue. I'm thinking mainly the second half of the scripture that Nancy read, and again, Nancy, thank you so much. Because we're focusing on Simon Peter. And those of us who know our scriptures or have been here for a Lenten service, you know that Peter had some rough times for Holy Week when he denied, and again, we'll talk a little bit, we'll read some of that too, when he denied Christ 3 times. And so here's the kind of his big chance. I would imagine at least that was certainly in the back of his mind, that here is my chance to maybe make things right, because I messed up before. And I think that's something that I would assume, it's not just me, that all of us can relate with. How many of us maybe this morning would love to have a second chance at something? So take a minute and just kind of think about that. I won't ask you to share it out loud or anything, but think about that. When are the times in your life, maybe immediately, you thought of something, a certain conversation that you had or shouldn't, that you wish you could take back those words or that conversation, or something you did or didn't do? But I'm guessing that most of us can pretty quickly think of at least one instance that we wish we could go back, right? When we were a kid, what'd you call it? A do-over, right? At least I did. A do-over. So, well, we did something and it didn't work. Hey, let's do-over. Okay. And then everybody runs back and then you do it again. And you get a second chance. But we know in life that that's not always the case. And in fact, most times it's not the case that we get one shot. Now, sometimes we have a chance for second chances or for restoration or forgiveness, and we don't take that because we're just so mired into the guilt and the shame of the issue, whatever that was, that we don't see that others, but certainly God, through Jesus, gives us those second chances. I found an example of this, a vice president of IBM. I don't know if this was a true story or not, but it's a good illustration. Excuse me. A vice president of IBM came up with an idea to set up a separate division. And so he was given permission by the CEO. And so when he put the plan in motion, this guy promptly lost his company $10 million. And so he came in and he told the CEO that he was resigning because of what had happened. He felt so horrible. And then when the CEO asked, well, why he was resigning, the vice president said, well, because this thing was such a miserable failure. And the CEO responded, well, you're not resigning after I just spent $10 million on your education. So thinking about our failures, our missteps, those things we wish we could do over, they're not so much a failure if we learn from them. So let's look at that conversation that Jesus and Peter had today. And again, think about it. Jesus' death looked like a failure, right? I mean, all the disciples, everyone there, oh yeah, here was this great guy we thought was going to be something special, was maybe God's son. Oh, he was killed. Okay, well, that blew up in our faces. Won't believe that again. But then again, 3 days later, what's this rumor? Wait, what? You saw who? And there it was. Peter and the rest of the disciples had been expecting something different. We talk about this all the time. They were expecting an overthrow of Rome and a new kind of kingdom. They were expecting that they were going to be with Jesus all the way. No matter what happens, his mighty men, kind of like Robin Hood and his mighty men. But the movement failed, it seemed like. He didn't conquer Rome. Jesus was executed. And then when he needed them the most, the disciples scattered. So they failed miserably too. But again, what we can learn from that is Jesus makes successes out of our failures. And sometimes there's things that look like failures, but indeed they are not, if it is God's plan, if God is behind us and with us through this. In John 13:36 through 38, again, we see that sometimes we think we are in charge. Simon Peter asked him, Lord, where are you going? And Jesus replied in this 13th chapter of John, where I am going you cannot follow, but you will follow later. And Peter asked, well, Lord, why can't I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. And then Jesus answered, will you really lay down your life for me? I tell you the truth, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. So Peter, let's admit it, is a little arrogant. And again, I think we all can maybe relate to that at certain times in our life, so certain in his own strength. So much so that he figured even if the other disciples would fall away, well, he certainly wouldn't. He would surpass them all and be with Jesus. And then the betrayal comes, and Judas kisses Jesus, and the soldiers move in, and Peter finds himself surrounded by his Lord's enemies. And then all of a sudden, it's hard to stand by that boast. And again, you know what they did. They all took off. And again, that's something I don't think we can really judge, because maybe we would have done the same. They prove that the thing that we often do is the very thing that we do not want to do, right? We heard that from Paul, Apostle Paul, all the time. And again, here then Peter has some opportunities to make it right. Are you one of those disciples? This girl at the door asks Peter, and he says, I am not. And then he's warming himself, and someone says, you are not one of his disciples, are you? And he denies it, I am not. And then one of the high priest's servants, remember a relative of the man who had gotten his ear cut off, whose ear Peter had cut off, challenged him, didn't I see you with him in the olive grove? And again, Peter denies the Lord. And at that moment, the rooster began to crow. So maybe we can understand this feeling, maybe that what is going on, because maybe it wasn't so obvious. Maybe we do something and then we do it again and we do it again and we know it's not right and we call that person when we know we shouldn't be having contact and we pull up that pornography site, or we just have one more drink, or we just say one more nasty thing on the internet and hit enter and off it goes. And each time, we're given that opportunity. No, you've got to, wait a minute, stop and think, hang on. And we just have that tendency, don't we, as human beings, and again, that's not an excuse, but it's a reality, that we just can continue down that path until something happens, our rooster crows, and then we're just hit smack in the face. What are we doing? Are we honoring our spouse? Are we honoring our bodies? Are we honoring God and Jesus? So again, imagine what that would have felt like for Peter. And again, I think that we probably, all of us can mainly do that. Probably maybe the worst moment of his life to see that he had done exactly as Jesus had predicted. And Peter had nobody else to blame but himself. It was his choice. He denied Jesus, he betrayed him, so he failed. But does failure have to be a permanent condition? Again, we see this in Luke 22. Jesus had said earlier, Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you as wheat, but I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers. So Jesus is not like making this happen, but Jesus knows our hearts, and he knows we are not perfect like he is, and he knows that sometimes we succumb to temptation. And so thank God that he still loves us and that he still will help us through. He saw beyond the problems to Peter's heart itself. And to me, that's one of the great things about God. There's so many things, right? But that's one of them. Is he doesn't wait. He doesn't wait for us to get all perfect and cleaned up and all ready for him, right? Even just in the worst times, he is there for us, even maybe more often than not. Excuse me. So Jesus begins pursuing Peter. And we get to our scripture reading from today. Let me grab a drink of water really quickly. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these? Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my lambs. And again, Jesus says, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? Now, maybe he's doing this to just show the importance of this question. Could certainly be. And Jesus says, take care of my sheep. And then the third time he says, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter again was hurt that Jesus asked a third time, do you love me? He says, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my sheep. So Jesus asked it 3 times, but I'm sure maybe you thought of this too, that he asked it 3 times to maybe counterbalance the 3 times that Peter denied him, to give him that chance to make the slate clean, if you will. Or maybe he again, or in combination, is trying to show the importance of these questions. But again, my Greek is spotty. Even when I was in seminary, I had to work hard at the Greek. Hebrew was easier for me. I don't know why, but it was. So I don't do a lot of exegesis of Greek or Hebrew. I apologize because I do have some great sources that I do confer of professionals, theologians who know every nuance. But the 2 words that we see here, again, it's an important enough distinction I wanted to mention. There's 2 words that we see. It's agape, which again is like the most powerful type of love. We have an agape meal. So everyone is, maybe you've seen something like that advertised. So everyone's invited. Anybody, just come. It's free. Just come and eat, and we're going to serve it to you. So there's like a self-sacrifice, self-sacrificial element in the word agape. And then the other one, which again we see sometimes, is filio, which is again is a deep affection. So like a filial relationship with your brothers or sisters. So filio, a deep affection or love as between family or siblings. So it's intense, but not as powerful as this self-sacrificial word also. And again, it's just so interesting that we just have one word, really, love, in English, because there's so many nuances. But anyway, so Jesus' first question, do you agape me more than these, is what the translation would be. And Peter said that he would outlast the rest, but he didn't. And so again, Peter kind of stops boasting, like, oh, okay, hang on. I'm not in charge of everything. I need God. And then his response is, you know that I filio you, or that I deeply have affection for you as a family member or as a brother. And Peter, again, kind of has the right to say this because Jesus knows the worst about him, worst about us, and he still loves us amazingly, right? And we have that song, right? I hope there's at least one person in your life that you can go, you know what? Yeah, I did this, I messed up this, they know how I said this and was so nasty or this or that, but yet they still love me, they forgive me. And again, you don't want to take advantage of that, but at the same time, that's an incredible feeling to have a person or some people in your life that are there that are that supportive to you. And so Jesus asks again, do you agape me? And the reply is the same. You know that I filio you. Because Peter had to own the hurt that he caused, just like we do. We can't just go, well, my spouse or my sibling or my kids, they'll forgive me no matter what I do, so I'm going to go ahead and do X, Y, Z. Right? We have to own the hurt that we cause other people. We have to own that. And we have to acknowledge it, and we have to apologize for it truly from our souls, and maybe it's several times that people need to hear that apology. We need to own our mistakes. Same with Christ. Here in just a little bit, we're going to be sharing communion, and before we take that gift, and I want to say accept it, it's not, we don't grab it, it's freely given, we confess. We take a time to confess to the Lord. So the third time, Jesus asked one more time, right? He's not done. He says, Peter, do you filio me? So now he's like, do you really, truly have that deep affection for me? And again, Peter just has that grief in like, well, I can't believe you're asking me this. But Jesus meets us where we are. And I hope that that's a take-home message for you today, that no matter where you are on your journey, no matter where you are in your relationship with Christ, that you know that. I hope that you feel that in your spirit, that Jesus will meet us wherever we are, whatever we are ready to do. If we're not ready to give our lives to him, Lord, you are all. I give my life to you. But I think that maybe there is a higher power or a spirit thing, maybe. I'm going to experience that a little bit. I just saw a video. I'm a big, I'm a football, soccer fan, but I'm also a Ted Lasso fan. And I don't know if maybe some of you saw, but there's going to have a 4th season, right? Yeah, I know some of you watch the show. And so I happened to watch an interview by the guy who plays Roy Kent, so Brett Goldstein, and he was talking about just various things, and it was an NPR interview, so it was kind of in depth and kind of asked some pretty deep questions, and one of them was, do you believe in a higher power? And it was really interesting because he said, I never did, never. And then he was, I can't think where he was, but some South Sea island or something, sitting on a beach, I guess kind of like that, although that's up in the UP, not some, Fiji or something. But that he was sitting on a beach, and this beautiful sunrise, I think it was, a sunrise. And it just kind of came to him of there has to be a higher power to be able to create this beauty, and we're here together to experience this. And so he had this moment. And again, he was really careful to not talk about it, and those who have been kind of hurt by organized religion are very, very careful about labeling that exactly because they've been hurt by organized religion. But yet it was just so cool that I just thought, okay, God, ding, there's that little kernel, right? Which I just pray in him and in everybody will just continue to grow and continue to grow. So God meets us where we are, whether we just have this one moment of acknowledgement or whether we are ready to give ourselves into full-time ministry, or whatever, and everything in between. He meets us where we are. And so he gives him all these things to do, right? Shepherd and feed and serve all people. Watch over them, protect them, teach them. That's what he's saying. Feed my sheep. So Jesus can take away those failures and turn us into the people that he wants us to be. Will it be perfect right away? Of course not. But yet, that's the encouragement that I pray each and every one of you are feeling this morning or will feel from through Spirit's presence, especially as we're sharing in communion. Sometimes, everybody experiences communion differently, and I totally respect that. Sometimes people just kind of chat through communion. Other times people just kind of look around or think about what they're having for lunch or whatever. And again, I can't tell what you're thinking about, obviously. And then I see other people that are just kind of really just focused, like this is quiet, this is a time. So I would just really encourage you today, especially if you haven't ever tried more of a focus, a prayerful focus during communion, to try that today. And if you need something specific to think about, maybe you don't, maybe you've got all kinds of things in your life that you want to pray to God about. But if not, maybe take some time as we're sharing in communion here to think about that idea of second chances. And that idea of God, thank you for this, and I truly believe that the Spirit will move in your soul. And just an aside, if you feel like you don't have anything to talk about with that, then maybe you more than anybody else need to. Does that make sense? Because if you're like, oh no, I'm good. God and I were like this, no problem. I know I don't make that many mistakes. It's no problem. Right? That's an issue because we know that we all do. Obviously at different levels, different things, but it doesn't matter. A sin is a sin is a sin. So there are no levels to sin. So I encourage you to do that. The last thing I just wanted to show you really quickly is my sermon title. Finally, I'm getting to it. Come and have breakfast. So this is a picture actually just east of Pictured Rocks. Some of you have been there, up in the UP. Katie went there, our daughter Katie, on a overnight camping trip. It was an OSU hiking club, and so they drove up there, and then they hiked for 2 days east, following the shoreline, and spent the night overnight or on the beaches, and then would come back. And so I really like this picture because that was when they were in the morning and having breakfast as they were going. But what made me think of it, not just the kids making our breakfast right now, but that all of these things that we talked about, God's forgiveness and you being able to have a second chance and all those different things, they are always there for you, right? I mean, we don't have to wait around God doesn't wait around for us. God is always there. But we have to be the ones to acknowledge him, to recognize him in order for our spirits to be changed. And so a lot of that, the more that I'm seeing things and talking to people, the biggest issue is us taking the time, I think. Taking the time to recognize that God is with you. Taking the time to self-reflect. What are the things that I've done that have brought God grief? Or others' grief, and how can I make amends for that? And I think I love this picture because it's not like, okay, let's grab a breakfast bar and off we go. But they sat and they had their breakfast. And we can miss that if Jesus is there and we just bring in the fish and off we go on about our daily lives, doing all the busy, fun things, or things we have to do. Laundry needs to get done, I get it. But yet, do we miss that Christ is right here among us, or here? And he wants us to say, I've got sustenance for you. I'm going to give you things that are going to make your life even more joyful. But you have to recognize that it's me and that I'm here, and that I take the time to just sit and have breakfast with me. So however that looks, and again, that's one more thing maybe during our time of prayer here, is that you can maybe be praying for that. Of Lord, I have no idea, when can I possibly do that? What spiritual discipline can I start now to be able to take more time with you? And again, it doesn't have to be give up 3 hours of your day. Oh, that would be okay too. But it can just be 10 minutes. And then the more that you do it, the more it'll turn into a deeper practice, whatever that is. Maybe it's going outside into nature, finding a sit spot. We're going to talk more about that next week. being lost in the scriptures, whatever that looks like to you. Jesus has that desire to be with you. And all we need to do is just acknowledge that and give God the time and the attention, and he will honor that.